the first thing you need to do is you need to go to aplusstudents.com. You need to go to the website. Once you're on the website, you need to select maths. This is a grade 7 math lesson. And the topic for today is data and graph. The topic is data and graph. Okay, I'll give you the chapter number and the lesson number. The chapter number is 23 and the lesson number is 6. Chapter number 23 and the lesson number was 6. The name of the lesson is Interpret Bar Graphs. Okay, so we would be looking at bar graphs today. Let's go to grade 7, chapter 23, lesson number 6. Okay. Grade 6, grade 7. Okay, grade 7, chapter number 23, data and graphs. Lesson number 6 says interpret bar graphs. Okay, with the name bar graphs, the graph will have bars on it, right? Because it says bar graph. So let's have a look at what exactly a bar graph can be. Okay, so I'll just realign. The first question we have is this, and the question says, Lindsay, a park ranger, recorded the number of each type of tree in Harrison County at Park District. Okay, this is a bar graph, and the bar graph will give us certain information about the trees, different types of trees. So how many more oak trees are there in the Rose Park than Lake Park? There are 2 parks that are being discussed over here. Okay, question number 1. So what we say is, this is Walt Park, this is Lake Park, and this is Rose Park, right? The green bar represents the oak trees, while the red bar represents the apple trees. So what we need to see is how many more oak trees are there in the Ross Park than the Lake Park. So let's see. In the Lake Park, there were 10, right? And in the Rose Park, how many were there? There were 40 oak trees. So how many more? Rose Park has more, right? So 40 in the Rose Park minus 10 in the Lake Park. That means 30 more oak trees. There are 30 more oak trees. Hi, Manuel. Welcome to the class. We are looking today at bar graphs. The bar graphs will show, the bars will give us the information, right? And we will compare the information. The first question was about oak trees. So we looked at how many oak trees were there in Lake Park. There were 10. In the Rose Park, there were 40. That means the Rose Park has 30 more oak trees. Okay, agreed? Let's have a look at the next question. Gradually, we will change the difficulty level of the question, okay? And we'll see what other possibilities are there. So the next question says, it's a statistics project. Okay, let me just realign this. Okay. For a statistics project, Jeff observed the number of hits and misses scored by some basketball players. Okay. So this is our question number 2. And what do we need to find? Okay, let's see. What it's showing us over here is third baseman, first baseman, right fielder, and second baseman. The green shows us the misses, how many misses were done, and the blue shows us the hits. Okay, did the first baseman or the right, the two options, first baseman or the right fielder, which one of them had fewer hits? Okay, so we look at the blue column because blue shows us the hits, right? So first baseman, right? First baseman had 6. Right fielder had how many hits? 2 hits, right? So which one of them have more hits? Sorry, fewer hits. The question is asking fewer hits. So we can say right fielder had fewer hits compared to the first baseman, right? Because they only had 2 hits. Okay, let's add some more questions to this. If this was the first part, let's say in the second part of the question, they're asking us how many more hits did first baseman had compared to the right fielder. Okay, so we are taking the same values and we are trying to find the answers, right? So we can say that we already know that the first baseman had 6 hits and the right fielder only had 2 hits. We need to find the difference. How many more? So what we can do is we can subtract and we can say 6 for the right first baseman minus the right fielder 2. So we can say 4 additional hits for first baseman, right? But because they scored 6. If we add another question over here, who had the highest number of hits? So we can look over here that the number of hits were 1. Sorry, the number of hits were 4 and the number of hits were 10. So can we say that second baseman had highest hits, right? Or if we change the question, we can say who had the least misses. Now, if we want to look at the misses, which of them are missing the least? So let's see. There was 1 miss. There were 3. Sorry, there were 3 miss. There were 10 misses, and there were 4 miss. So 1 is the least, right? We have to find the least. So we can say third baseman had the least misses, right? So we can assess a lot of information from just a single given bar graph. Any statistical diagram Maybe it's a bar graph, line graph, circular chart, any chart can provide us with multiple information because multiple categories are being compared. Okay. Okay, let's have a look at another question. Sorry. Okay. Gavin is doing band rehearsal for the question number 3. Let's see what are the possibilities. I'll just move ahead. Okay. If these were the questions given to us. Okay. This is our question number 3. It shows us that Gavin recalled how many minutes he had spent at band rehearsal in the past 3 days. The information for the days is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Okay. They're asking us how many minutes did Gavin rehearse on a Wednesday? What we can see over here is the y-axis shows the days, the horizontal axis shows us the minutes, right? So which bar has the more minutes to it? We say this was 100, this was 80, and this is also 80, right? So can we simply say that Gavin rehearsed for 100 minutes on Wednesday, right? You can only give 100 also as the answer, but writing a statement is way better. Agreed? Let's move ahead. For the next question, it says, okay, the next question is a very similar graph, but the requirements have been changed and it shows us the life expectancy. Okay. Okay. In question number 4 says a geography class recorded the average life expectancy in different countries. You have United States, Venezuela, and Poland. Okay. So let's look at the numbers. United States is 76 over here. Venezuela is 75 because the horizontal axis is showing us the life in years and the vertical axis is showing us the country. And Poland was 73. Okay. Okay. Which the first part of the question says, see, which country has a long, if the question would have been which country has a longer life expectancy, right? Just this statement, then the answer would be very different. Okay. If I would say this is the second part, which country has a longer life expectancy between all three? So we can say, as per the information provided, it is United States. But in the first part of the question, between Venezuela or Poland, they skipped one option and they are asking us to choose between the two options only. So we can see that Venezuela has more, right? Has a greater expectancy, right? So depending on the question, depending on the requirement, we find the answer, right? Okay. So just a change in statement would give a different answer. Okay. Moving ahead to the next question. The next question says, a biology class average breath holding capacity for various animals. Okay. Let's have a look. Okay, can I just paste this? Oh, no, I cannot. Just a moment, please. Question 5. The question number 5 says they're trying to find how long can an animal hold their breath. Okay, this is our question number 5. So a beaver on the vertical axis, it's the time in minutes, right? On the horizontal, we have animals, the name of the animals. The beaver can hold for how many minutes? 20 minutes. A porpoise can hold for 15. It should be a tortoise. Platypus can hold for 10 minutes. And a hippopotamus can hold for 15 minutes, right? A tortoise. It's a tortoise. It's a turtle, right? A tortoise or a beaver? Which animal? So when we compare this, beaver was 20 and a tortoise was 15, right? That means we know that 20 is greater than 15, right? And 20 was for the beaver. That means the time beaver can do is more than a tortoise, right? So which animal can hold the breath longer? A beaver can. Agreed? A beaver can hold its breath longer when compared to a tortoise. Okay? Okay. Moving ahead to the next question. The next question says that it's about a soccer practice and they're comparing several months. Okay. In this question, what they're telling us is Kristen looked over her calendar and she looked at how many times to see how many times did she practice soccer in a given month. Question number 6. So on the vertical axis, we have the months. On the horizontal axis, it's the number of practices. So in May, she practiced how many times? 20 times. In June, she practiced 20 times. In July, she practiced 30 times. So the question says, how many practices did she have altogether? Did Kristen have in May and July? We need to find the total sum of the practices, right? So we know that May was 20 and July was 30. So she practiced practiced 50 times in 2 months. Agreed? We can write any statement that in the 2 months she practiced 20 times. In May and July she did 50 practices. The sentence can be different, but the answer would be 50, right? Moving ahead to the next question. The next question says, okay, let's compare. A race car driver is keeping a record of the laps, the time lapse, okay? How many laps did he drove past in the last 3 days? Okay. For question number 7, It says on the vertical axis, it shows the number of laps. On the horizontal axis, it shows the days. So on Monday, the driver did 20 laps. On Tuesday, the driver did 70 laps. On Wednesday, 10 laps only. Oh, we just found the answer. We can say 10 laps only, right? Let's add another. Okay. Find the difference in the number of laps driven on Monday and Tuesday. So we know that Tuesday has 70, right? And Monday had 20. So we always subtract from the larger value. So that would be 70 minus 20. That means 50 laps were extra, right? On one of the particular day. 50 laps more on Tuesday. Right? We can further define the answer. We can give a very accurate answer as well, right? So with a bar graph, there's a lot of information that we can process. Okay, they can ask a lot of different requirements. Okay, let's see what the next question shows us. For the next question, it says, a sports fan decided to examine the pattern of the medals won at Olympic Games. Okay, let's see what is the information given. We have countries and we have the medals with us. Okay, if this was the bar graph given to us, question number 8. So the countries are Australia, Sweden, and Brazil. The purple shows in 1996, right? And the gold shows us 2000. So the question is asking us, how many more medals did Brazil win in 1996 compared to 2000? See, what we need to do is we only need to compare Brazil over here, because Brazil made how many medals in 1996? They did 15 medals. And in 2000, they only had 10 medals, right? So we need to find the difference. The difference would be 15 minus 10. That would be 5 more medals in 1996 than 2000, year 2000, okay? If we say this is the first part, let's extend the question. Okay. Who won the most medals? Okay, so when we are talking about who won the most medals, what we have to do is we do not have a restriction of year, right? We do not have the restriction of the year. In this case, what we do is we find all the values. This was 40. Even by looking at the grid bar, we can say Australia did, right? 40 and 60. This was 10 and 10, right? So if we say for Australia, that would be 40 plus 60. The total was 100 medals, right? For Sweden, it would be 10 plus 10. That would be 20. And for Brazil, it would be 15 plus 10, that would be 25. Rather than who won the most medals, Australia won the most medals, right? Rather than doing this entire set of working, what we can do is whichever has the highest bar will have the maximum value, right? Because we are looking at the number of medals on the vertical axis. So Australia had the highest bar. So we can directly say that Australia won the most medals. Agreed? Okay, let's make another question out of this. How many more medals did Australia win in 1996 than Sweden in the same year, right? So we know that in 1996, Australia won 40 minus the Sweden. Sweden won 10, right? That means Australia won 30. Australia won 30 more medals. Agreed? So what we are trying to do is we are trying to get as much information as we can, and we want to process that to find the required questions, okay? So the questions, we know that the questions will not have any restrictions on it. They could be multiple parts. A lot of information can be gathered from a bar graph, okay? Moving ahead, let's say the new question says for a math project, okay? Okay, there are certain options for a math project. I don't know how it can be a math project. Let's see. Okay, if this was given to us, question number 9. And this information is being provided to us. Okay, so in question number 9, it says, in question number 9, it says, for a math project, Wilson recorded how many students were wearing a t-shirt, polo, sweatshirt, sweater, or a turtleneck, right? So over here, they've given us sweatshirts, polo, and t-shirts, right? They're not comparing the sweater or a turtleneck, right? We are only considering the 3 options over here: sweatshirt, t-shirt, and a polo. Okay, and the horizontal axis shows us the shirts, what kind of a shirt is there, and the vertical axis shows us the number of students. Okay, the green color shows us the girls, and the brown shows us the boys. The first part of the question says, how many boys wore sweatshirts? Let's suppose if we say this is the first part. So we look at the sweatshirts. Brown was the boys. We can say 70, right? 70 boys wore sweatshirts. Okay. If I would say which type of shirt was won by maximum number of girls. So all we need to do is we need to find which the choice. Okay. What we are doing is we are looking at bar graphs. We have bars in it and we're trying to assess information through it, right? So in this case, the first question they were like, how many boys wore sweatshirts? We look at the bar for sweatshirts and we follow the color code. That means 70 was there, right? Which type of t-shirt or which type of shirt was worn by maximum number of girls? So the green represents the number of girls. Sweatshirt was worn by 80, right? Polo shirt was worn by 80 and t-shirts were worn by 50, right? So there are two choices for girls, right? Girls wore sweatshirts and polo shirts, right? The most, because they both are 80. They both have the same value, right? We are just creating a question. It could have been the least. So the least would have been a t-shirt, right? Okay, let's move ahead. Let's do a few more examples. We have a summer carnival in the next question. Okay, let's see what we can do in question number 10. The question number 10 says, just a moment, please. If this is our given question. Okay. At a summer carnival, each member of Elliot family played a round of beanbag toss. Okay. So it says, it shows us a certain information. Let's resize. Okay. Misses and hits. Misses are with a purple, hits with our red. Okay. So we can find the number of misses by Uncle Drew. Uncle Drew missed 3 times and he hit 10 times. Aunt Kim misses 6 times and she also hits 6 times. Uncle Rob misses 10 times and he hits 8 times. Okay. A very simple question. Can I ask? The question I'm asking is, did they all play same number of times? Because 10 plus 3 would be 13. 6 plus 6 is 12. And this is 18, right? So they all did not play the same number of times, right? But just the records are there, okay? So the horizontal axis is showing the name of the person, where it shows the number of tosses, the vertical axis. So the question says, how many more tosses did Uncle Rob have than Aunt Kim? So Uncle Rob had minus the tosses done by Aunt Kim. Uncle Rob did 18 tosses minus Aunt Kim did 12. That means Uncle Rob had 6 more tosses, right? He did 6 more. Hi, Michael. Okay. Do we agree on this? Great. Let's have a look at the next question. A county agency is recording the money that has been given for charity, okay? Charitable money, it's okay. We will do it from the scratch. What we are doing is we are looking at bar graphs in this topic, and bar graphs will show us information in form of bars of any scenario, different scenarios, okay? So in this particular case, In question number 11, it says a county agency recorded the money donated to several charitable causes over time. For education, this money was spent for animals care, this was spent for parks, and for food and hunger, right? It's done in 2 months, May and June. Okay. So and the question says, which cause raised more money in May between education or parks? Okay. So let's look at education. In May, education got $8. And how much did the parks get? Parks received $6, right? So can we say education raised more money in May, just a particular month, compared to the parks? Agreed? So we simply need to find, or we simply need to assess the information and give our answers, okay? Bar graphs are very simple. Not a lot of information needs to be processed. Most of the information is already there on the bar. Okay. Let's have a look at another. Okay. Let's just do a few more questions and then we'll head back to the test. Okay. Okay. The next question says, question number 12. Okay. Boutique is there. Okay. Jewelry price. And they're asking us. So for question number 12, sorry, it says a boutique owner labeled prices on several types of jewelry. Okay, we have ruby, we have gold, and we have diamonds. This horizontal is the styles, and this is the price. Okay, so if we are buying brooches, price is given in the gold. Bracelets would be given in green, right? The question that has been asked: which style of jewelry sets cost the most? Okay, they are not limiting us on whether it could be a brooch or it could be a bracelet. We have no restrictions, right? Because it says which. Yes, perfect. So which jewelry sets cost the most? See, in this case, in question number 12, we do not even have to find the answer, right? Why? Why do not we have to find the answer? Because we can see that the highest peaks are with, okay, let's label over here. This was 55. This was 90, right? So ruby would cost 55 plus 90. That means just an example, right? 145. Then we had gold. Gold was 95 and 55, right? That would be 150. And diamonds would be, how much is diamond? 55 and 70, right? Dollars 125. So we can say that gold set cost the most, right? Because it has the highest value. Or we can say is, since these two columns were, these two are in close competition, ruby and gold, right? Since these two heights were the same. Agreed? So we look at the height over here. Which one is taller? This is taller, right? That means we can just, by looking at the diagram, we can tell that gold cost more. Okay, do we agree? We do not have to find the answers always because they're not asking us about the value. We can read the diagram and we can find the answers as well. Okay, just a moment, please. Let me go back. Grade 7. I'm just going to the test. Chapter number 23 and lesson number 6. Let's do some questions from the test. Okay. The first question of the test says, just a moment, let me copy this. If this first question is given to us, this is the information that has been provided to us. This is question number 1 from the test. So the question says, a healthcare analyst examined world healthcare spending over time. These are the money that has been spent. That means millions of dollars or dollars. The countries are Sri Lanka, Mali, Nigeria, and Ghana. Okay. So I'll just extend the question. Per capita, how much more did Nigeria spend on health care in 1991 than in 1993? Okay, I will just copy the options. Okay, I will give you the options in the end so that we are able to find it ourselves. Okay, so what they're asking us is healthcare in 1991 and 1993, Nigeria, right? Over here, they're spending how much? 25 billion, right? If we say this is in M, that is millions, dollars, $1 million. And Nigeria spent how much? In 1993, they spent 20. Agreed. So they're asking how much more did Nigeria spend on healthcare in 1991 than in 1993? So 25 minus 20 million, that is 5 extra, right? And the given options were, these were the two given options, option A and option B. If they would have asked us, if this would have been 55, they could have 45, they could have asked about the total. But here we know that Nigeria spent 5 additional compared to year 19. They spent 5 extra $1 million in 1991 compared to 1993. Okay. Okay, let's have a look at another question. Okay. So the next question we have is, it says some students compared how many blocks they lived away from the school, right? The distance of their house to the school. So this is the given information that we have. Okay. And this is the statement. Let's try to find this. This would be our question number 2 from the test. So we have two options, option A and option B. How many blocks from school does Cole live? We have the names over here, Cole, Jonah, and William, right? These are the names on the y-axis, that is the vertical. Horizontal axis shows us the number of blocks, right? Priyan, what would be the answer? Priyan, what would be the answer for this? How many blocks from school does Cole live? See, we look at the distance of Cole. Cole was 20 blocks. Jonah was 10 and William was 10, right? So we simply click on 20. It's the two options given by 20 and 25. Co lives 20 blocks away, right? So we simply click on the option, right? Please do complete the remaining questions so that you have a better understanding of the topic. Okay, they are just 20 questions in this topic. Practice them. And if there are any problems, any concerns, just go through the lesson, okay? Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Take care. Bye.